Good afternoon, everybody. I hope this video finds you best of health and spirits. In this video, I'm going to talk to you about why we need economic bottom-up economic development models or trickle-up development economics models for India and other developing countries. Other developing countries are also essentially on the same bandwagon as India, and India can prove to be, given its large base of human resources, it can prove to be a thought leader in this regard and help other developing countries as well, both in Africa and Asia. And within other India itself, we can help other states to improve. Each state can help another state to improve. The idea, coming back to the idea of the left and the left and the right as it pertains to economic development models arose from a seating arrangement that was instituted in the French Assembly in the year 1789 around the time of the French Revolution. Okay, because as per this seating arrangement, people who wanted a larger role to be played by the governments were asked to sit on the left, and people who wanted a larger role to be played by private industry were asked to sit on the right. The French Revolution, as we may recall, was a period of immense and intense political and social upheaval in France that took place between 1789 and 1799. It marked the beginning of the storming of Bastille on July 14, 1789, and it signaled the start of the revolution. This revolution led to eventually to a republic that was based on the ideals of liberty, equality, and fraternity. These terms and concepts generally spread to the rest of the world today and widely used in economic circles all over the world. Left and right, it essentially means the same thing. Therefore, however, there could be some variations of the basic theme. Okay, leftists generally ask for a greater government control of the economy and government institutions, and limited or no role to be played by free markets. Right wing proponents try to reduce the cost and the size of the economy. For example, the same approach is being followed by Argentina now. They're trying to weed out unnecessary government expenditure. Even Donald Trump in 2025 is promising to do the same thing. He has taken a lot of people like Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy and other people on board to help him to do this. Okay. And these, of course, represent extreme positions. There could be a lot of via media positions. Most cases, most of the governments, via media positions are adopted. Okay. And therefore, economic models will take into account the requirements of that particular country or that particular region. However, many of them are driven by dogma, either left wing dogma or right wing dogma. And therefore, we need to have via media approaches on the issue. Okay. And development models also have by and large been Western centric, and India and other developing countries have failed to come up with their own unique development model that will lead to rapid and wider prosperity. Okay, traditional Western economists have also measured growth and economic progress and prosperity in terms of growth-related and growth-centric metrics such as per capita income and GDP growth rates. However, other countries from particularly developed countries have come up with newer approaches. Okay, and they have questioned the efficacy and validity of these Western centric approaches. Therefore, we have some economists such as Amartya Sen and others who have developed concepts such as human capital and human development index. The concept of gross national happiness is also another interesting concept that evolved in the Buddhist Himalayan kingdom of Bhutan. I have been there for 2 years. It's a very small country, and people there are extremely happy. Okay, however, some concern of a brain drain occurring recently. Okay, and we have also talked about socio-cultural groups and socio-economic groups, and we have concepts such as gene efficient, cultural bottlenecks, mind orientation, cultural orientation like inward looking, outward looking cultures, rational cultures, not rational cultures. Okay, we have concepts of thought worlds, worldviews, mind space, etc. I've written about these in depth, and you may read this paper for further information. Okay, I have also published a paper on anthropological limits. I have also spoken about social capital, cultural capital, intellectual capital. Okay, I have also spoken about cultural limits, anthropological limits, cultural controllable factors, non-controllable factors, etc. And we must also mesh this with environmental and concerns, because environmental concerns and considerations are extremely important nowadays, and we must take them into account at all time. We also need Keynesian economics for developing countries, a variation of that loosely. Keynesian economics was advocated by John Maynard Keynes, who was a British economist. He helped these theories helped to USA to come out of its Great Depression, which followed the prosperity of economic growth in the 1920s. It was known as the Roaring Twenties. Keynes, unlike Herbert Hoover and other people, advocated greater government spending. Okay, His theories and ideas were implemented by F.D. Roosevelt and others, and this was a part of the uh, New Deal that was proposed to him. This led to large-scale construction activities such as dams, and it helped pull the country out of the Great Depression. Herbert Hoover was a right-wing conservative. He refused to increase government spending, and he didn't allow the poor and the starving to be supported by government. However, he allowed them to be supported by other private well-wishers and philanthropists. Okay, and his dogma pushed the economy into greater depression. Okay, and he imposed sanctions on imported goods, but there was a tit for tat retaliatory measure by other countries. Okay, so Hoovervilles came to be known as shantytowns came to be known as Hoovervilles, and Hoover flag represented empty pockets turned outside on, showing that people didn't have any money. Okay, therefore, again, we must reiterate on the fact that each country's realities are different, and no copy paste scholarship is required. This is one of our essentials of the globalization of science movement. Okay, we will argue for via media approaches. Always there must be retrospection and cogitation. We must also accept the fact that capitalism in some form and private enterprises are here to stay. Okay, human history over the past 5,000 years has been marked by private enterprise. Okay. Karl Marx defined five stages of society, which are primitive communism, slavery, feudalism, capitalism, and communism. This may have been flawed as it has been not been supported by historical evidence. Okay. And bottom-up importance of economic development models is extremely important. For example, an increase in investment in agriculture will put more purchasing power into the hands of India's huge agricultural force, and this will greatly boost all sectors of the economy. This happened in the year 1988, which I remember vividly and clearly. Agricultural growth pushed up the GDP growth. It led to an increase in production of other goods as well, consumer goods and non-consumer goods like industrial goods. And agriculture also is no longer subsistence-based agriculture. It has been booming of late. New technologies such as drones, vertical farming, agricultural robots, organic farming, artificial intelligence in agriculture are now doing very well, extremely well indeed. And in India, K.N. Raj was an important Keynesian economist, though some of his ideas were eventually baselined. On the other hand, after independence, unfortunately, Fabian socialism, this is a British movement, seemed to be adopted in India at some cost by P.C. Mahalanobis and others. And this led to economic stagnation for several decades in India. This came to be known as Hindu rate of growth. Okay, and unfortunately, there has been dogma from all sides, not data driven approaches. Left wing practitioners, right wing practitioners seldom talk to each other at all. Okay, and some capitalists think free market is everything, but there are limitations of free market. Okay, extreme versions of laissez-faire capitalism also argue that there should be minimum government spending, but for in countries like India, the trickle down effect will work very slowly because there are education and other factors. We must invest in our social indicators, improving our social indicators, etc. It's only in the recent few decades that welfare economics has come of age, and extreme right-wing conservative ideologies have begun to be jettisoned. Okay, the idea and concept of welfare state is of course somewhat different from the idea of a bottom-up development model, though they can be judiciously combined. And if you see India's economic policy after independence, it was greatly influenced by negative colonial independence experiences, which were seen as exploitative by Indian nationalist leaders. Therefore, they veered towards autarkic and self-contained economic policies and towards the leftist model to a much smaller extent, which was pursued by the now defunct USSR. Okay, this concept came to be known as dirigism. Okay, unanimous concern at that time was that dirigism would help, but unfortunately, private enterprise and importance of education was neglected, and there was no universal literacy till many decades after independence. Okay, most people seem to be left oriented. Okay, Mahatma Gandhi had a different view, of course. He wanted small scale industry, village scale industry. Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose was leftist, and Nehru was leftist, but not to the extent of Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose. Only two people who were right wing at the time was C. Rajagopal Chari and Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel. Okay, Indian government also adopted protectionism with the emphasis of heavy industry, centralized planning, economic interventionism, large-scale public sector, and heavy regulation of private industry. Okay, commanding heights of the economy were given to the public sector. Okay, and Indian economy became autarkic. Autarkic. That means it was cut off from the outside world, and India's share in world exports declined actually after independence. During the Mughal period and before that, it was fairly high, maybe 20% of the world economy or so. Okay, we also came up with 5-year plans, and these were developed initially by K.N. Raj and later P.C. Mahalanobis on the rise of the central model Stalinist planning models adopted by the USSR. And core and important sectors such as steel, mining, machine tools, telecommunications, insurance, power plants, and other industries were nationalized in the mid 50s, and this dirigism led to mixed economic results. Okay, the economy generally languished and stagnated with a Hindu rate of growth. This was a term coined by the Indian economist Raj Krishna. I think he's a Bengali. There were, however, a few green spots in the uh, Indian economy. For example, we had the Green Revolution that was launched under the aegis of the eminent food scientist M.S. Swaminathan. He played a great role in providing better types of food grades. However, this was generally adopted only in the north, particularly in the Punjab, and not in other parts of the state, and it was heavily fertilizer centric. Okay, so this led to soil degradation in the long run. Okay, then subsequently, Indian Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi also tried to implement some reforms. Actually, before that, even Indira Gandhi did in the under the due to the requirements posed by limitations posed by the IMF, Rajiv Gandhi did bring out some reforms and heralded the technological revolution. However, Manmohan Singh and PV Narasimha Rao played a major role in opening up the economy. Okay, there still have been some critics of the liberalization program, mostly from the left, also from some marginalized communities. Leftists refer to liberalization as neoliberalism. Okay. Liberalization programs have also have been widely criticized in some quarters for greatly increasing income equality, concentrating wealth in the hands of the elites and privileged few, worsening low rural living standards, causing unemployment and layoff, bypassing the agriculture sector completely and the MSME sector, and leading to increase in farmer suicide and agriculture distress in such as Vidarbha, okay, in Telangana. Leading thinkers like Jean Drèze and Amartya Sen have also dwelt on India's inherent schisms and contradictions in their books, An Uncertain Glory, India and its Contradictions. These, of course, like many left-leaning scholars, they never come up with new or novel recommendations because they're constrained by dogma mostly. These also argue that India's problems won't be solved through rapid economic growth alone, and fundamental structural changes are required. Okay, these also authors have also lambasted the Gujarat model of development, which is largely seen as neoliberal. Okay, it had some successes, which we'll talk about briefly, but it also had many failures. Therefore, we need trickle up, what we call trickle up development models, inclusive growth models, and bottom up development models. This will yield rich economic dividends and political dividends also, because politicians implementing such schemes can become popular among the people and garner more votes. Okay, trickle down economics also has been criticized on many quarters. Many people say it won't work. For example, you say if you give the hearts more oats to eat, the sparrows around it will also get more food. Okay, this approach is fallaciously endorsed by right wing groups and hardcore capitalists. Okay, and some opponents of trickle down also argue for tax wealth for cuts for the wealthy, but we do not know how wealthy people will behave, okay, if taxes are cut, because we don't have any control on how they will spend it. They may spend it on luxury goods, yachts, etc. Like again, each type of expenditure has also trickle down the patterns. Okay, suppose they choose to invest it wisely on industry, then people will benefit to a larger extent, but they may buy jumbo jets and yachts, luxury yachts, liners, etc. Then we have no control. So this does have indeed its own limitations. Okay, and it can also serve to make economic gaps wider, because we don't have control over wealth, how wealth is spent by the wealthy. Therefore, different types of approaches are required. So, for example, at the point of spending, we may tax. We may give benefits to wealthy if they choose to invest it in wisely on bonds or on industries, etc. Okay. Therefore, our 10 mantras with respect to the economic policy would, with respect to economic policy would be: One, we should not blindly ape Western centric development models. Ground realities in different countries may be fundamentally different from one another. Two, issue based, problem based, and context based solutions must be always adapted. Three, we must always listen to more and more voice from diverse social cultural spectrums. We must always offer only constructive criticism. No ideology based approaches must be adhered to, and counter ideologies must also not be slavishly followed. Course corrections may be required from time to time, and these may be adopted wherever they are required. We must continue to learn from past mistakes and learn from each other. By this, we mean other states and other countries with other economic philosophies and doctrines. The canon of efficiency, economy, and productivity output, along with output criteria driven economic balance, must be borne in mind at all times. The idea of benefit to maximum number of people must be borne in mind at all times. Pragmatism must be borne in mind at all times. Okay. Again, we harp and reiterate that you should read my book on anthropological economics. Okay, therefore, concepts like emphasis must be made on education, health, childcare, nutrition, agriculture, manufacturing, services, sanitation, science, technology, research, social security, urban infrastructure, rural infrastructure, sustainable development model at the same time. Let us also now review some models such as the Gujarat development model. The Gujarat development model was implemented after 2000 and refers to a period of economic policy that was pursued from the year 2000 or so onwards. The model is considered to be neoliberal and associated with the rule of the BJP government in the state. And this is a part of competitive federalism. The growth model emphasized rapid improvement in infrastructure, including roads, railways, ports, power, to enhance industrial development. A lot of benefits and concessions were given to corporate sector. They were pursued and viewed aggressively and asked to invest in the state. This also led to competition among various Indian states who tried to uh, attract investments. Okay. However, some aspects of the Gujarat model have been questioned by experts. For example, poverty elevation was low according to some studies. Trickle down of wealth did not work effectively. The fruits of development were not shared evenly. There was no labor intensive growth, and we had jobless growth in some cases. And education sector was ignored and neglected to large extent, and there were high school dropout rate. Even Chandrababu Naidu stands accused of not improving the quality of human resources, but he has been raising alarm bells on the following falling birth rates. That's why we need a low population for the environment movement, low and high quality human resources movement. Okay. Therefore, many development indicators lagged badly in Gujarat, and access to public services was poorer. On the whole, the development model was not environmentally friendly either, because at the time, environmental science was just taking off in a small way. Now, if you come to the Kerala model of development, the Kerala model of development is a much touted model of development, and help many governments in India for Kerala followed this model. It helped achieve better productivity, lower infant mortality rates, significantly lower population growth rates, higher education, increased life expectancy, and better healthcare facilities. This is quite different from the Gujarat development model and other development model. It has led to rapid increase in human development, impressive improvement in human development indicators. This model of development traces its roots way back to the 1950s. However, it shot into widespread prominence only in the 1970s through the practices advocated by K.N. Raj and others. Kerala's birth rate also fell sharply, and it reached replacement level in 1988. Bihar and other states will not reach this until 2030s. Its literacy, infant mortality rate, and socio-economic indicators are also high, and its poverty levels were low. Okay. However, in spite of all these stellar accomplishments, and these are all feathers on the cap, but industrial development lagged behind, because most of the Marxist companies were seen as anti-industry, and per capita income of state also remained relatively low, and there was a large-scale exodus from the state of skilled and semi-skilled manpower. Okay, this is because of labor unions and the left front's anti-industry chance. Because Marxists were only interested in saving existing jobs; they were never interested in creating new jobs. Okay, if you see the Dravidian model of development, Tamil Nadu prides itself a more inclusive development model, and it has also not missed the liberalization, globalization bandwagon. It is booming in agriculture, manufacturing. It is the first state to come up with a separate budget for agriculture, and state is India's most industrialized. Manufacturing progress is also widely showcased, and it's also touted as being highly successful. This model also has its own it has its links to Dravidian political ideology, which emphasizes social justice. For example, in 1977, MGR came up with a program to introduce nutritious meals in schools. This was criticized as being populist. However, it boosted school attendance greatly, and it has been followed by other countries. Okay, poverty rates have also declined substantially. However, there is some North India sentiment because that's because of the Dravidian ideology and the subscription to old theories, such as old defunct Aryan invasion theory. Orissa model of development has also been widely touted. It is seen as one of the underdeveloped states in India and laggard. It has also reached total fertility rate of replacement. It is one of India's poorest states, and some regions such as Kalahari were even associated with starvation deaths. The winds of change are, however, now blowing, and performance over the past 2 decades has been impressive. And half the seats in Panchayati Raj institutions have been reserved for women. And women self-help groups are also strong there. And large number of utilities such as private and coal have also been privatized. And there is a lot of investment in heavy industry. However, there is a concern of encroachment on tribal lands and rural regions, and pollution also is one of the concerns there. The size of the bureaucracy also has been reduced. Subspace footprints are being provided. There have been impressive states made by Odisha in education, health, and education. Okay, so, if you see other states, for example, Chandrababu Naidu was Sikkim has invested heavily in organic farming. It has been successful, unlike Sri Lanka, which failed in this initiative. Chandrababu Naidu was enamored by the Singapore model of development. Between 1996 and 2004, he focused only on Hyderabad, believing that the rest of the state was not even his. Unfortunately, he has the onus of developing the whole state. Telangana people took advantage of it and separated. Okay, now he is focusing on Amravati centric model of development. What do you say? Neglecting Vishakhapatnam and other parts of the state, Rayalaseema. And however, now he has begun to change with the times and he has realized his past mistakes. But I hope a good thing will happen. Otherwise, the state may disintegrate even further. He also neglected education, was a master of sub-regional biases and prejudices, and educated pronatalism, or higher birth rates. However, he never talked about quality of human resources or importance of education. Okay. In the early days of independence, we had a planning commission. It has now been replaced with the Niti Aayog, okay, or the Niti Aayog, or the National Institution for Transforming India, which is an apex public policy think tank of Government of India. Establishment of this think tank and its replacement of the old planning commission has been criticized by some leftists and Ram and the Indian magazine, left-leaning magazine Frontline. However, each approach may have its own plus points and minus points. There are many concepts such as Amrut, Digital India, Innovation Mission, etc., which have been developed by this. So, apart from this, each state must learn towards each other and the Niti Aayog must facilitate coordination and learning among Indian states. And we must also learn from other countries, however small they may be in Africa. And we must also teach them because there needs to be a greater cooperation among what I've called the global south, and there must be horizontal collaboration, not just vertical collaboration. Okay, this is important because many failed states in Africa, there is a lot of poverty there, and Nigeria's population control program has horribly failed disastrously. And local considerations, of course, must always be taken into account consideration. This is a very important factor that must be borne in mind at all time. This will lead to better economic model and utilization of human resources. However, this development of local centric appropriate and apposite models has not taken place. We hope there will be a big change in the next 1 decade or so. Thank you. Goodbye.